All right, welcome to Rapid Fire Manufacturing. I'm with Travis Christman today. Travis, if you don't mind just giving a quick introduction about who you are, how you got into manufacturing, kind of the story behind you.
Yeah, thank you, David. I appreciate you having me on to Rapid Fire Manufacturing. This is quite the honor. So, I started in manufacturing after I got out of the military. So, I had a very unconventional route to manufacturing. I decided I wanted to go to college to be a secondary education technology teacher. And I decided in 2008 to make a little transition. And I went into industry and technology. And then I said, well, why not have a little bit more change in my life? And I enlisted in the Army as an infantryman. Couple years of training, transitioned to the Indiana Army National Guard, and joined a company. In my first manufacturing opportunity was at Sony DADC Digital Audio Disc Corporation in Terre Haute. I was there for about 11 months working on high-speed holographic printers. And then I got my first taste of orthopedics at Zimmer Biomet, which has been a 15-year career for me in three different companies after that, but that's how I got here.
That's awesome. So, well, first off, thank you for serving our country. I truly appreciate that. My family does as well. So, thank you for that. Um, Getting into manufacturing, what was like your initial thoughts about manufacturing? Did you have any idea about how like large it was?
Yeah, so I grew up on a small farm out in the middle of nowhere. I went to a very rural school in a blue collar community. So manufacturing or any skilled trade was probably the preferred route versus higher education. For me, being mechanically inclined was everything because I was handing tools to my dad at 6 years old out in the garage or out in the barn because we couldn't afford to pay anybody to fix any of our equipment. We did most of it ourselves. So from a theory standpoint, a lot of how I think is mechanical, and manufacturing is really was a good fit when I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. When I was in college, the industrial arts was where I really enjoyed my high school time, so I kind of extended that. I really only knew mechanical and
Mhm.
machining. I didn't do a lot of exploring past farming and machining the different opportunities. Didn't even really pay attention to med device that much as it was about 35 minutes away from where I grew up. But yeah, I think my first draw to manufacturing was the fact that there's always a problem to solve, and when you solve one problem, you create another one, and there's a lot of security in the workforce in manufacturing. There's always ways to improve. There's always ways to automate, and I really enjoy that side of business.
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, you already had that. You were inclined to, you know, it's probably an easy step into manufacturing. That's really cool. You talk a little bit about, so for me, medical manufacturing is new. I would like to know more about it and kind of the processes about the industry.
Yeah, so going from like Sony, which is basically we were printing images on top of CDs to going into med device. It was an awakening. There's a lot of regulation in med device. There's ISO requirements, there's global requirements, there's the Code of Federal Regulations through the FDA, and all those things you have to get acquainted with because there's a lot of that's
Hmm.
required. We kind of make the joke in med device. We produce two things: paperwork and parts. So you kind of have to become acquainted to that. And my first stab at manufacturing a med device was very much an executor, individual contributor role, where I was doing a lot of work order maintenance. I was doing nonconformance investigations, and it was a great place to really cut my teeth because I spent a lot of time with operators figuring out what it is that they did, figuring out what their passions were, and trying to motivate the type of culture that we needed to produce the products to the high standards that were required of us.
Wow. Okay, so you're working directly with these operators. So is part of it building that relationship first with them, and then by doing that, you can start to have an impact on the culture? Or how do you kind of walk me through that?
David, if I could talk to any new medical device manufacturing professional, the first thing I would tell them is build really strong relationships because you're going to need them, and not just building them with your peers, but building them with the people that are working with you, the people that are potentially going to work for you someday. You really
Hmm.
got to understand how to do what they do before you lead them. So if you have a desire to go into any type of supervision or leadership, you really need to start at the ground level and understand the headaches and the pains that they go through. Figure out what it is that helps them do what they do more efficiently and makes their career very enjoyable. And in turn, they're going to take care of you. So relationships are huge. I wish I would have focused on relationships sooner. I've always been a relational person, but I didn't quite understand the magnitude of how important it was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm similar boat. You don't realize it until, yeah, you're already well on your journey, and then you're like, wow, okay, I see how
Yeah.
things work. No, that's awesome. Now when you're with these individuals, are you spending time on the shop floor, like actually seeing what they do day to day and kind of experiencing that with them, so you have that kind of empathy for them or a deeper understanding?
Yeah, yeah, and something that was always easy for me, David, is I like to get to know them personally to let them know, hey, it's more than just a work relationship. I want to know how your kids are doing. Is your wife still doing good at her job? Is there anything that you need me to pray for your family? Those are the type of things that build like real meaningful relationships. And from a work standpoint, it's really asking a lot of questions. Some of the most intelligent people in the world ask really, really good questions, and they are very slow to speak and quick to listen. And I think
Hmm.
that's huge in med device manufacturing. I think manufacturing in general is ask a lot of questions and be a very good listener.
Absolutely. That's phenomenal advice. Now, getting into Priority Medical, if you don't mind explaining what is Priority Medical? How'd you get into this role and kind of what do you envision for the future?
Wow. So next week will be 1 year at Priority Medical for me. My title is problem solver. I've had a lot of titles in my career. This is probably my most enjoyable one. At Priority Medical, we're an ortho med tech engineering services company right here in the orthopedic capital of the world, Warsaw, Indiana. And we help augment teams that need support in R&D, product development, operations, quality, regulatory, product management. When you have priorities that your team's getting after,
Hmm.
we can come right alongside you and take that third, fourth, and fifth priority off your hands and execute them in a very timely manner. We can work in your system. We don't need any training, and I think that's the niche space that we fill, and it's a space that our founder Luke White had always known needed to be filled because he had worked in several companies that just R&D gets slow the bigger you get, and there's always a need for partner to come in and help augment what it is that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned this before, which I think is really important. You're working with, you said, up to like 200 different contract manufacturers. So it's a huge impact that you have on the state of Indiana, right?
Yeah, so the state of Indiana in totality is the third largest manufacturing state in the United States. I think one of the big reasons for that is the orthopedic industry. When people say med tech or med device, that's very broad. In this ecosystem, it is hardware, it is orthopedic implants and instruments. And the ecosystem that we are surrounded by is super rich. We have 5 generations of orthopedic experience right here with the orthopedic capital Warsaw being the hub, but it goes as far east as Fort Wayne, as far north as Mishawaka, as far west as Valparaiso, and as far south as Huntington. And within that radius, we have about 100 contract manufacturers and tier two suppliers. And yeah, we're trying to make a really compelling argument of why would you produce your medical device anywhere but here? You can we have world-class surgeons, we have the surgery centers, we have design and
Hmm.
development, contract manufacturing, sub-processing, clean and pack, and we can do distribution and logistics too. So it all started in 1895 with Reverend Depew, and then everything was history from there. In 1927, Justin Zimmer started Zimmer, which is now Zimmer Biomet. In 1983, Dane Miller started Biomet. In 2016, Zimmer and Biomet merged together. And we also have Medtronic Spine. We have it's DePuy Synthes, but it used to be Johnson and Johnson MedTech, but I don't know if you saw the news, but I believe that they're spinning off that business to become DePuy Synthes again.
Oh, okay.
So just a really rich history of orthopedics here in the orthopedic capital.
It was fascinating to me about manufacturing. It's like people dedicate their life to, but there's endless topics to learn about. So you may learn about aerospace, and that's like uh med device, orthopedics. I mean, the instrumentation that you use are so small, and to be able to manufacture that machine, the components, or it's fascinating.
Yeah,
So that's got to be.
we have a what's really cool, David, is we have a guy that came from automotive. We have a guy that came from aerospace, two of the most solid engineers I've ever worked with, and they have the least experience with med device on our team. So they there's a lot of skills that transfer,
Hmm.
but when you think about problem solving, being resourceful and being able to figure out, okay, it's new, but there's different regulations. You figure it out, and you kind of train yourself, train as you go, and do it as fast as possible, and get the job done for the customer, and move on to the next project.
Yeah. Well, the regulations, because it's one of the most heavily regulated industries, right?
Hmm.
Because I mean, you're working on actual people. You're putting, you know, components within a human being. So
Yeah.
how do you are these being updated constantly? So you have to make sure that someone's up to date on every single regulation, right?
Yeah. So when we talk about, hey, why do you do what you do? Why do you work in orthopedics? Orthopedics is really special because we work very closely from a design perspective with the surgeons. So the skilled hands of surgeons, that is the first line of communication with the patients that need the care. So when we focus on what the surgeons need, the surgeons then in turn tell us, hey, these are the modifications. This is what I could use that would help me be more efficient, and in turn, that helps more people. So it's a good revolving circle there of innovation into design and development. Because as you're well aware in manufacturing, you may be able to dream it up, but to actually machine it, there's a lot of design for manufacturing that has to go into place. So it takes everybody,
Hmm.
but I would say that, for us, it's working really closely with the surgeons, and then ultimately that helps our patients. And anytime we can connect with the patient, that's awesome. But typically, the most conversations we have are with surgeons and other OEM.
That's awesome. Are there any stories? I know a lot of stuff you can't share, but are there any stories that you could kind of walk through? Because that's always fascinating to me.
Yeah, yeah. Probably the fairly recent one is that there was one of our team members found out a need for a young gal that had an amputation at the elbow, and she loved to play the violin. So they actually worked on a prosthesis for them. And prosthesis is a different part of med device. We were in the foot and ankle space at the time, but they were able to construct something 3D printed to help that young girl start using her violin again. And it was just really special because for one, we were really close to the patient, and we
Hmm.
knew what the patient's needs were, and just to see the happiness and joy real life, it's really hard to beat that. It really is a blessing to work in this industry, and people that are getting the hip, knee, shoulder total joint replacements,
Hmm.
those kind of projects to help restore mobility in patients so that they can run, bike, ski, all these different things. That's really special, and it's very motivating.
See, that's awesome. Yeah, that would have to be just extremely rewarding to be a part of that for sure.
Made here, a manufacturing showcase. Yep.
Okay, so December 18th.
Yes, December 18th, Rodeheaver Auditorium. It's in this beautiful town called Winona Lake that's in the heart of Warsaw. So it's in the orthopedic capital. It's on Grace College's campus, a local university. Just a beautiful auditorium, has a large capacity. But yeah, Made Here is going to be located there. And we look forward to having our guests and making a really solid case why you'd make your medical device anywhere but here.
So can you kind of talk about what's going to be at the event or leading up
Yes.
to? Is there anything before, like showcasing?
Yeah, so David, the whole I'm going to start with the impetus of the idea.
Okay.
So the idea came from a priority medical employee, a problem solver, and we rely so heavily on contract manufacturers to take our ideas and bring them to life very quickly, and then we can iterate it really fast. So our goal is to fail really fast and iterate really fast as well, because we want to have speed, cost, and quality all met for the customer. Typically, you hear that you can only have two of those. I disagree. I think you can have all three. And in this ecosystem, it's very available to do so. So we have compulated 14 different Swiss contract manufacturers to produce a part that we designed. When you go to Omtech in Chicago, you see a lot of everybody else's parts being displayed on the contract manufacturing display cases. And
Mhm.
what's unique about this showcase is that we basically created a Swiss part that has a blank canvas, and the contract manufacturers can then alter that part in ways that help showcase what it is that they're capable of. So from a commerce standpoint, we know that this is an awesome place to do business as well for business expansion. We've seen a lot of businesses come to town to be closer to the ecosystem and to the heartbeat of the industry. So we have 15 OEMs from outside of Warsaw coming from all over the world: England, Europe, Australia, and then a lot from North America to really hear this compelling story and see what the capabilities are, to see what this ecosystem looks like. There's a lot of opportunities for OEMs. There's several returns for them.
That's really cool. I'm excited to be a part of it. So yeah, thank you for that.
We're excited to have you there. I think you're really going to enjoy it, and maybe I can talk you into coming over on the med device side.
Yeah, yeah. So if you could go back in time and give yourself some advice about manufacturing, what would that be?
Yeah, so I would say um, dive into the little things. So if you do the really simple things and you do them really well, you're gonna always succeed. Hone in your problem solving capabilities. So I think if there's anything that you get out of higher education, it is figure out how to solve problems, iterate, don't be afraid to fail, fail fast, iterate, and then put something into place and monitor the heck out of it, and don't let all that hard work go to waste.
Awesome. And now is this the same advice that you would give to someone just getting into manufacturing right now, maybe in a different area?
Yeah, I would say start at the bottom, like learn the basics. Depending on what it is, think far enough ahead to where you can start breaking down the different skills that you need to be successful. And if your goal, like we were talking earlier, is upper management, you better know every job that is going to be underneath you to the point that you could do those jobs. Because when the floor needs mopped, when the trash needs taken out, when the light bulbs need changed, that's what leaders do. They serve.
Yes. Actually, I just had a conversation with someone yesterday about that, and he said, especially if you're going to be a leader, you need to literally learn every single process along the way. If you don't know anything about finances, learn everything you can about finances, operation, sales, marketing. You need to be competent in every single area.
Absolutely.
So, well, Travis, I do appreciate your time, and I am super excited about the Made Here event on December 18th.
Yep. Looking forward to seeing you there, David. Thank you.
So